Yeah. At one point in Henry's career, he was recruited into NOAA, as we were just saying, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, or I say a project within NOAA, because there's so much compartmentalization in all of these agencies. And the guy who recruited him was somebody who had also been there on Mars. And there's something about these, my words not his, the Mars veterans. There's something that is traumatic about their experience that Henry could not elaborate on. He told me that these two highly qualified, very sane, very brilliant scientists working with these classical organizations, they would close the door of this guy's office and they would weep together because of what they had experienced together. And I said, what did you experience? What was this? He couldn't tell me. I said, well, look, it sounds like fun. You go into a jump gate, you go to Mars for lunch, you play around with some equipment, which is all that you were doing on planet Earth anyway.
Ping pong with an ET.
Ping pong with an ET. And the ping pong is easier because the gravity is lighter. And then you come back. I mean, that sounds like fun. And he couldn't say. And every time I said, but what's the problem? He became anguished, but he couldn't say. And it wasn't that he wouldn't say, he couldn't say. It seemed to me that there's something there that either he could not remember or he would not remember or he was not being permitted to remember. This is my guess. I don't know if there's anyone out there who has been part of this. Then for goodness sake contact either David or ourselves. At the moment, we're just really guessing because we don't know.
Okay, but why would we need a Mars base? I mean, what's the point?
I asked him what the function...
Is it like for an evacuation if the Earth gets in trouble? Or?
Yes, it's one of the functions. This is why Henry was adamant that he did not want anything to happen that would prejudice the continuation of the secret space program, because he said, we're on a ship and the ship might sink. These are our lifeboats. Don't go wrecking the lifeboat
That's like
systems.
the alternative three thing.
This is the alternative. This is the alternative three thing. Exactly. This is
the idea being, that certain people basically get out of here.
And certain people. Let me tell you more. These people have been chosen. There's a cadre, a group of very bright, very qualified, very highly able. Young representatives of the human race have already been singled out and trained to be the ones that will survive if we on planet Earth go to hell in a bucket in some way that is beyond our control. The ones that will
Well, it's like the doomsday seed bank thing too, right?
Absolutely, really, These guys have already been earmarked. The whole thing is just like a science fiction story. Let me tell you more before we get thrown out of the restaurant here. I've got incredible.
You always hang it right over the edge here.
Back to what he was saying about, or back to what I was asking him about the catastrophe or the catastrophes that have befallen Mars that make it look like a kind of rocky wasteland.
Right.
I said, well, there's something here that we can learn as a planet about. It's like, look what's happened to that planet there. We've got to take care of this. He said the Earth is being protected. The Earth is being protected. And I said, how do you mean being protected? He said, in ancient times there was a protection put around the Earth to protect its extraordinary diversity, this extraordinary biosphere, this amazing. I mean, some people call it a zoo. This incredible life on this planet. And I said, well, what form does this take? He said, it's the Van Allen belts.
Van Allen belts.
The Van Allen belts. They're not a natural phenomenon. They're put there by...
It's the radiation blanket around the Earth that keeps cosmic rays from causing us to have skin cancer as much as we, a lot worse than we do now if they weren't there. We wouldn't be able to live here if it wasn't for the Van Allen belts. I
said, were they put there by our ancestors or our creators? And he said both. And then I said, Now, that reminds me, tell me something here, because I'm really curious. It's a question we'd never asked him. Because a lot of the people, Bart Sibro and other people, have legitimately questioned whether the Apollo missions made it to the moon by saying that, look, they couldn't have made it through the Van Allen belts. It's like going into a nuclear reactor and out the other side. You can't do that with that kind of technology. How did this happen? How did this happen? You couldn't have done it. They couldn't have gone to the moon. This is a load of nonsense. And so I said to Henry, look, this is a crazy question. Did we make it to the moon? And there was the longest silence. And eventually he said, yes. But it's not quite as simple as that.
Oh, Christ.
And I was thinking everything that you're thinking right now. This is a live conversation, guys, okay? He said, yeah. He said, but we went there with help. We went there with help. He said...
Every Apollo mission had UFO sightings surrounding the ship. Every single one that's been documented. And the fact is that almost all the Apollo astronauts were Freemasons.
He said that there was there's a non-human engineered ultra-lightweight nano-shield built into the Apollo capsules that protected them from the radiation. Because some people have been saying, look, you couldn't get through that stuff without 2 feet of lead, and the thing couldn't have moved, They had that technological help, and they had another kind of assistance.
I may have told you this before, but one of the things that Daniel told me was that there's a little box from Monsanto. It's about this big. You can run your whole house on it and it never runs out. It's free energy. They had that in the 60s, that they put it on the Apollo mission, on some of the landers and so forth, secretly snuck it in as something else, and that it was used, for a source of power when they needed it.
Yeah. Yes. And they had something like that worked as a sort of radiation deflector. It deflected stuff as well. They had these 2 devices. They had a shield and they had a deflector. And they also had something, and he wasn't specific about it. He said that enabled the LEM to land, the lunar module, to land and to take off. He said to me, what do you notice about the LEM as it took off? And I said, no blast
Daniel
crater.
said exactly the same thing.
No blast crater.